So for this week's discussion, I'm choosing to talk about Curitiba, which is a city located in southern Brazil. It's a kind of a fascinating city to look at because it really changed um, dramatically in the last 50 years. There was a mayor by the name of, I'm assuming it's Jaime Lerner. He revolutionized Curitiba's transportation system using public buses, creating center lanes of traffic strictly for bus transportation. So instead of expanding the traffic lanes, which part of the reason that he did this was Curitiba from the 60s to essentially now has quadrupled in population, going from roughly about 400,000 people to over 2 million. Instead of expanding traffic lanes and adding more congestion to what was at the time a relatively congested city, he increased the amount of bus lanes and the amount of buses that were used throughout the city. One of the benefits that he kind of came up with was to use a colored bus system to designate what the function for the buses were. Orange buses were for express lanes, gray buses were for kind of residential traffic. He implemented this plan in a 2-year time frame, and one of the benefits was that bus companies are paid per kilometer that they drive as opposed to the amount of passengers that they transport, and this was to incentivize services to less populated routes. This is something that I think a city like Austin, Texas, even if they have started to adopt this public transportation policy, there's definitely some improvements that can be made, especially because, like Curitiba, they're a rapidly expanding city. One of the other fascinating things that I saw was that there's 28 interconnected parks. They designed the parks to be interconnected to maximize their use, and the parks ring the city, and some were built in less than 2 months. One of the benefits that I think Austin could use tremendously is because they've had a history of floods, just like Curitiba. One of the parks that they designed is used strictly for flood control, and it covers 1.4 million squared meters. And part of the reason that they did this was so that the park would naturally absorb the water, as opposed to having to design and spend the money on all the concrete, the underwater piping to do this from a man-made perspective. One of the other things that I think would be enormously beneficial to Austin, because they kind of have a rapidly growing homeless population. Curitiba has slums, just like a lot of cities, especially ones of this size. But they use these services called sites and servicing schemes, where the government offers low-interest loans for land and free house design for people who live in the slums. Something that's great about this program is the residents are trained to build their houses, and they make up a large part of the labor force. So you're taking these people that really don't have a lot, and you're giving them an enormously beneficial trade skill, because it's not like these are just shacks. They have running water. So they have plumbing, electricity, sewage. So these are beneficial trades that even if they only use it to build their house and they don't have anything from a jobs perspective, they can use these trades to help generate an income. From my perspective, if I would live in a city like Curitiba, if I was doing it from a perspective of a single person, not with a family with young children. If I was doing this alone, I would move down there in a heartbeat. The average salary in Curitiba in U.S. dollars is about $1,900 a month. Where a large apartment in affordable areas of the city costs an average of about $560 a month U.S. dollars. So it's an affordable city. It's not the safest in the world. It's not the most educated in the world, just based off of some of the information I was able to find. But if I was going down to relocate to a different country and be single and start my life down there, some of those things aren't really deal breakers for me. So I could see some of their government policies are great because areas around the parks that I discussed, the revenue and the resale value in those areas is humongous, and the tax revenue generated in those areas is higher because they're nicer areas of the city. So I would definitely move down there if my situation was a little different, given that it isn't. I'm just going to be stuck in Cleveland, Ohio for a while. Thanks.